Hey, Mike. Good morning here. Good afternoon to you over there. How you doing?
Hey Bill, I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. It's a beautiful Colorado morning here, and yeah, we've had just a lot of rain and hasn't been too hot. So, how's it been over? You're in Bethlehem, PA, right?
Yeah, it's finally getting some rain now. It was pretty dry and hot here for a while, so it's cooled down and uh the lawn and garden is finally growing again.
Oh, that's good. Man, my lawn, my whole backyard just looks like a jungle. It is just unbelievable how overgrown things are this year. I mean,
Uh-huh.
we exceeded our annual rainfall here in the Denver area like a month ago.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it's pretty insane how much we've had, and it just continues to rain. Now we're in the monsoon season, which means we get those afternoon thunderstorms too. So
Hmm.
if you need mushrooms, I'm happy to send them to you.
Yeah, what kind do you have?
Lawn mushrooms. I, I
Yummy.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they're edible. Probably not.
Yeah.
But lots of them. So oh well. Well, good. Well, for those who don't know where Bethlehem is, it's kind of tucked up there in the northeastern part of the state, right?
Yep, the Lehigh Valley, kind of near the Delaware Water Gap, just across from Jersey.
Right.
So it's just about an hour and a half from where I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up in Rahway,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, spent I lived there for 20 something years, and then lived in Lyndhurst, New Jersey, which is near where the Giants and Jet Stadium are, and Rutherford, East Rutherford, and
Of, of,
uh,
of course, what is that town well known for?
East Rutherford
No, no,
or Lyndhurst.
Lyndhurst. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, come on. You know that was the site of the famous Hindenburg disaster, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to think of something like less well known, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then lived in New Brunswick, New Jersey, where Rutgers is.
Right.
There's an awesome towpath that goes from there down to Trenton, uh, and then yeah, out to Washington for a couple years, and then now in Pennsylvania, back
Cool. Cool.
closer to family. So
Yeah. So, are you a good Giants fan? I hope.
a closet Giants fan.
Okay. Well, most of us have to hide in the closet because it is pretty embarrassing rooting for them all these years. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I'm afraid my Yankees are as embarrassing as the Giants are these days. I
mm,
just last night likening
unfortunately.
my Giants fandom to the way the Yankees are right now. It's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, what do you do over there in Bethlehem?
Well, now I am a stay-at-home dad. Uh, I'm a teacher by training.
Right.
I've done some teaching in Jersey, Washington, and Pennsylvania, and I stay at home with my 4-year-old daughter now, and we have a baby coming next month in September. So
Wow.
uh,
Okay.
I'll be continuing to stay home for the foreseeable future, I guess.
Right. Well, I guess it's a darn good thing you've gotten a couple of these athletic feats out of the way before then, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's the my wife reminds me that this will be the last one for a while, so make it count.
Right. Although, it's funny. I was coaching a guy this summer. In fact, I used to coach him years ago in basketball when he was in high school, but they were expecting a child and he wanted to break the 5 minute mile one time before this new arrival came.
Hmm.
And so they had the baby and he's like, hey, you know what, I had 30 days of paternity leave, and he said, yeah, I found time to continue to do some training after that. And it wasn't completely a complete washout on his conditioning,
Sure.
so there might be time. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll still find an hour here and there to get a run or a bike ride in, but
Yeah.
not going to be devoting, you know, 10 to 20 hours a week anymore
Yeah, no,
training.
it'll be a little different.
A little different, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you guys are smart. You being the stay-at-home, being that you are on a teacher's salary, so you didn't give up as much as hopefully your wife is hopefully bringing in there.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a radiologist, so
No, there you go.
we're covered the for the time being.
Right, until she has to go out on maternity leave there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh well. Well, good. Well, You've stayed true to the area there, which is good there. That's I mean, that Delaware Water Gap, by the way, for those who don't know, is a beautiful area. I used to go to summer camp up in that area, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, in fact, it was near Damascus, which is kind of ironic. You've got a Bethlehem and a Damascus. A summer camp in the Poconos, and we'd go down
Uh-huh.
the Delaware Water Gap. Do canoeing trips, and um, I remember there used to be a a tire swing off a bridge that went over the Delaware River there.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh God, I'm amazed we didn't die, to be honest. I mean, um, I went back there. I happened to pass by that same spot some years ago, and I looked at that. It's like, whoa, we dropped from like 50 feet up into water that was a foot deep. Like, what the
Oh
hell?
my gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the water was higher then or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
hopefully.
Yeah, but I'm like, holy crap! It's amazing we didn't die when we were kids.
And we also have Emmaus and Nazareth in
Yes.
this area as well. So it's a lot of biblical names.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, the Delaware Water Gap is kind of like our version of the mountains around here,
Yeah.
which you know I've been to Colorado many times, and just obviously doesn't compare here to the Rockies or even in Washington State. You get the Cascade Range,
Oh yeah.
Mount Rainier. So my heart definitely belongs in the West Coast, but this is where family is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. Well, that's cool. Yeah. In fact, I have a cousin who was a general manager of a radio station in, I want to say Honesdale, maybe. Same area around there, though. But in any case, um,
Hmm.
but yeah, you obviously have stayed close to your family because that's kind of a main reason why we're even talking today here. Yeah, having to do with the fact that you gave up a body part for a family member, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2 years ago, I donated my kidney to go towards my mother-in-law. I was not a direct match with her, blood type wise and
Right.
everything else. So the way the kidney program works is if I donate a kidney to someone else, um, that actually created a chain, uh, which I think it was 4 people on the chain. So
Oh
my
wow.
kidney went to someone in Massachusetts, and then from Massachusetts it went down to I think it was actually Pennsylvania, and then from Pennsylvania it went to like Michigan. So it was kind of bouncing, from one person to the next. I mean, not the same kidney, obviously, but
Right.
one donor uh, to the next,
Yeah, it's
and
like
so
a
that
penny dish there,
once
right?
I donate,
Yeah, it's like the
sorry,
penny dish, give a kidney, take a kidney. Yeah.
yeah. So that creates a voucher. Once I donate my kidney
Right.
to this person, that creates a voucher for my mother-in-law, and now that bumps her up on the list to get a kidney from a living donor. And she had a I don't want to say a rare blood type, but she was difficult to match with. So it took her a while to get a kidney, but eventually she did about like 4 or 5 months after I donated mine.
Wow.
And that was after she had been on dialysis for 4 years, I believe. Um, and then, and this was also her second transplant. So her first transplant was 10 years ago. And that was, or no, I'm sorry, her first transplant was 15 years ago.
Oh,
And
really?
she was on dialysis for a few years until, waiting for that first kidney transplant. And then, that lasted whatever it was, 8 to 10 years. And then she was on dialysis again, waiting for the second transplant. So, uh, yeah, she's had a rough go. And
So did they replace the transplanted kidney basically, or did they take out her original, her second kidney?
that's a good question. I don't know if probably the transplanted one,
Yeah.
I would think.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and even the reason I was thinking about doing this, I mean, I met my wife, when I met my wife, my mother-in-law was still with her good first transplant. Her first transplant kidney was still good, and I kind of knew it was a matter of time before she was going to go back on dialysis and going to need another kidney. And so it was always something I was sort of preparing for or thinking about because, maybe 25 years ago, my dad donated his kidney to someone he didn't know.
Really?
Uh, it was just an anonymous donation. He didn't do it as like a voucher. He didn't like, get it so he could apply that voucher to like a family member or anything like that.
Yeah.
He just did it because I think he was reading a magazine one time and he saw, whoever wrote this article, was on dialysis, needed a kidney, and my dad wanted to donate to that person. He wasn't a match with that person, but he realized that there are a lot of people who need this, uh, who need kidneys and other vital organs that are just waiting for them on
Yeah.
dialysis. And um,
Wow, that's awesome that he
so
did that.
that was,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just an altruistic
Yeah.
donation.
Right. So, let's say you donated your kidney and then your mother-in-law never got hers for whatever reason. Would you have kind of felt a little ripped off, or it was like, nah, well, at least
Uh,
it's somewhere.
so yeah, I guess I'm a little torn in that way. I mean, I'm happy it went to somebody who needed it, and they benefited, and that created the chain. With so in that way, uh, that is just creating a lot of good change in the world. So from that perspective, it's good. Uh, on the other hand, I would want like the maximum amount of uh, benefit to come out of this donation. So yes, like it would be good if that voucher was used. What I didn't realize, and I guess maybe I wasn't advised properly, was that I didn't need to name only my mother-in-law as like the sole person who could have gotten it. I could have actually listed 5 people,
Hmm. All
but
right.
I think when I was doing it, I was sort of instructed to go, it's called like the paired exchange.
Yeah.
So like I donate to somebody and then somebody donates to my mother-in-law,
Right.
but that's not exactly how it went. So afterwards, when she got, um, um, so she actually didn't get a kidney from a living donor. It was because of how long she had to wait for this kidney. It came from a deceased donor, someone who had passed away, like on the operating table, essentially,
Oh, wow.
and the family wanted to donate the organ. So my voucher's still out there. I wanted to donate for my mother-in-law, but
Right.
it ended up just going to this one person. So the voucher's still out there. So I asked my kidney coordinator, like, "Oh, do you think I could uh, give this, just kind of retroactively list the 5 people as if I hadn't just mentioned my mother-in-law?" And then they said, "Well, the way the rules are right now, we can't change it. You can't go back and say
Right.
you want to list 5 people, but that might change in the future. And don't get too worried about it right now because it's not really, you don't really need to use the voucher for any person at this point."
Yeah.
So I said, okay.
Well, I mean, like, you don't really know 5 people on dialysis right now, do you?
No, not really, but like, I could list my daughter, my wife, just like people that may
Sure.
need it in the future.
Gotcha.
So yeah, thankfully I don't know 5 people on dialysis.
No, no, I was going to say that'd be pretty insane, right? Well, I mean, what your mother-in-law has is it potentially hereditary, where maybe it did pass to your wife and your daughter. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
there would be a nice thing to have in the bank, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess maybe that's why some people are hesitant to donate, is because they think, oh well, if my wife ever needed it, I would give it to her.
Yeah.
Um, I guess that was in my mind as well, but I thought, my wife is healthy, she takes care of herself, and not that my mother-in-law didn't or other people don't. Uh, but I prayed about it, and I just felt like that was what God was calling me to at that time.
Yeah. Hmm. I know people like bank their stem cells. I mean, but literally there's a place to put those. I mean, it'd be kind of funny if they said, well, sorry, Mike, your kidney wasn't a match. We'll put it in the freezer for the next guy who needs it or something.
That would be wild. Well, they do put it on ice, to
Sure.
transport it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that only lasts so long.
Yeah, right. Wow. So now before you did this transplant, were you an endurance athlete? I mean, that's something you're already doing?
Yeah, yeah. So that was something I was was maybe not concerned about, but something I was thinking about because yeah, I have done. Uh, Mostly running has been an important part of my life ever since high school. I, ran cross country and track in high school, cross country and track in college, and then after college, I got into some marathons, and then a buddy of mine from high school, his name's Andrew. He ran. He actually lived in Colorado for a while,
Okay.
uh, and he's done the Leadville 100. And
Good man.
anyway, his first ultra marathon was on the Ozarks in Missouri, and I went out to crew for him. And I ran. I think it was 25 miles with him, and as a pacer. And he was. This is like the toughest guy like I ever knew, and this was his first 100-mile race, and it like broke him. He did finish, but like it just like destroyed his body, and I was like shocked, like the difficulty of this type of race. I was like, I'm never doing one of these. And as it goes with a lot of things, time passes and kind of forget about the pain of it and things like that. Um and so the couple years later, uh he was deployed to Afghanistan, and then he said, "Oh, when I come back, we should do a race together." And so I said, "Oh yeah, let's do like the Leadville 50. That'd be a good thing to like for me to shoot for."
Right.
Uh, so the first a few months before the Leadville 50, I did a 50 miler in New Jersey, pretty flat. And uh and then in Leadville, we both did the race. He got third, I think.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I did pretty decent as well, like top 15 or something. But uh
Yeah, for
yeah,
a
that
couple
was
of
like yeah,
Flatlanders, that's impressive. Yeah.
that was yeah, just the mountains were beautiful, like running around. I was like, oh, I was, obviously pushing myself to like run a good time or be competitive. So I didn't want to like stop and take pictures, but uh, I would have liked to just enjoy the scenery.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's
then,
that's the one problem running ultras, it's beautiful and sometimes you have to force yourself to stop and take in a view. I mean, it's like Hope Pass in the Leadville 100. People always tell me what a wonderful, mystical, beautiful place it is, and I'm like, huh? It's just a nasty old, you know what? I mean, it's just
yeah,
because that's all I've ever seen. It's just me trying to plod up that damn trail. So, yeah,
right.
yep. You got to stop and smell the flowers and enjoy the view every now and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've also done, over 10 marathons, New York, Boston, DC. Uh, I did one marathon in Washington State when I lived out there. I did the California International Marathon the same year.
Oh, cool.
Um, and so after all these marathons, I actually did after the year after the Leadville 50, I did a 100-miler in New Jersey. And, that was also, the hardest thing I ever did at that point. And I
Yeah.
say, oh, the only other 100 I'll ever do is the Leadville 100. So
Really.
it's still on my list.
Okay. Well,
And
where did they have the one in Jersey that you did?
it was just south of Stoke State Park in Augusta.
I
It's
don't know where that is. Yeah.
like North Jersey. I think
Okay.
they call it like the state fairgrounds. So, it's
Gotcha.
a 10-mile loop you do 10 times.
Ooh.
So you
All
get
right.
used to it.
Mental
You get
challenge,
used to
right?
it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Better than 1-mile loop, which I've heard some courses have.
Are you picking on me? Because
Have
that
you done those races?
well, I don't know if you see, I'm wearing my American Heroes Run shirt here. This is the race that David Clark had started, who started this podcast, but this was his brainchild, and I've been directing it the last three. This will be the fourth year I'm doing it. And it is a 1.05 mile loop.
Wow.
And we've got races starting at 5K through 100 miles. So if you're doing the 100 miler, you're doing loops on that course.
Wow.
Yeah. The one advantage is you're passing the aid station every mile.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
you don't have to carry anything out there. The bathroom's there, whatnot. But it is definitely a different kind of mental challenge for sure.
Yeah. Easy to spectate, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no, it's great for people to come out, and if they just want to, pace somebody for a couple laps, they can do that, take a rest, and whatever. So, yeah, there are some
Nice.
advantages to it. As a race director, it's about the easiest course in the world to set up. I mean, that's the nice thing. I mean, you set up one aid station, and like I say, 1 mile of markings. So from that standpoint, it's great.
Nice.
Yeah, but in any
So
case, you did the 10
yeah,
mile course. Yeah,
as I was saying, the yeah, endurance races is very much a part of like my identity, uh and I also wanted to give this gift of my kidney. And I was just like thinking, when is the best time to do it? uh because I mentioned when I moved out to Washington, so I was like, do I donate before going out there, while I'm out there? Because, well, while I lived in Washington, my mother-in-law was still on dialysis, and she actually came to visit us
Hmm.
in Washington, and she had
Yep.
to go to dialysis while she was there. So it's
Sure.
painful to watch her go through this. And once we moved back to the East Coast when my daughter turned 1, I felt like that was the time to start looking into it. So uh, in 2020 is that when I moved back that summer and actually had surgery from a running injury in August of 2020, and then I donated my kidney in August of 2021. So
Okay.
2 years ago at this point. Um, and that was something I was didn't take lightly, a decision I didn't take lightly, because I mean, I knew I was hoping it was going to have a profound impact in someone's life. Not all the transplants aren't always successful. Sometimes the recipient rejects the kidney, and things just go awry. So I was hoping everything would go well on both ends. Both for the recipient and then for my mother-in-law. And I never heard anything from the recipient, uh, but I kind of heard through my coordinator that she didn't hear anything either. So, like, no news is good news, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, and so, but the big part that had reservations about was my own physical stamina and ability to continue doing these types of events that I enjoy doing and training
Of
for.
course.
And there are stories of other people who have donated their kidney and gone on to do cool things. Like, there's a website called Donor Athletes, and there's stories of people doing phenomenal things on there, amazing feats. And there's also uh, a competition called, I think it's called Donor Games. So it's kind of like CrossFit Games, but for people who have donated their kidney. And
Well, I mean,
uh,
isn't there like a donor Olympics or something? I thought I'd heard about that. Or maybe it's a transplant Olympics. Maybe that's what I'm
I
thinking.
think, yeah, it's transplant. So I think that's for
Yeah,
the
yeah. For the
recipient, I
recipients.
believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, which is pretty awesome.
Yes.
And so for me, the donation, the recovery initially was tough, just kind of getting over surgery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Tell us, what was that like? I mean, it's not an instantaneous process. It's not like an outpatient procedure where you leave the hospital and they say, well, you're on crutches for a week and then it's not quite like that, is it?
sure. But even going into the donation, it's not like you tell them, I want to come in on Tuesday to donate my kidney, and they put you on the schedule.
Right.
You you need to go through a whole evaluation over, I think it's 2 days, uh, involving a psych evaluation. There's blood work that they do. They check all the vital signs, blood pressure, and making sure there's no like hypertension, or
Right.
then there's a lot of questions that they ask you, make the family history. And
What
And
what
then you have to,
what do they want to know in the psych eval?
just to make sure that, like, you're not being coerced into
Right.
doing this, and that
Okay.
you're, of sound mind, and you're doing that for the right reasons, and asking questions about, my relationship with my mother-in-law, and kind of stuff like that. Because they yeah, I guess want to make sure that I'm not being forced to do it
Yeah,
by
yeah. Or make
anyone.
sure you don't think somehow somebody promised you 10 grand for your kidney or something.
Exactly, yeah, because in the black market, I'm sure you could do pretty well.
Right.
Um,
I was running in some places in South Africa this past holidays there where I'm pretty sure you probably could have bought some organs on the street out there. I
wow.
don't know. It was about as sketchy as you can get. I'm surprised the signs didn't say, I mean, it said, safe abortions, penis enlargement, don't lose your lover. Surprised the fourth line wasn't, hey, free, cheap organs.
Yeah, fits right in.
Yeah.
And so, in addition to those things, they also had to do a 24-hour urine collection.
Mm.
Uh, so I had to, every time I went to the bathroom, I have to collect it, put it in a jar, and then I brought it with me on the day of, like, the physical evaluation. And uh, I filled 2 3-liter jugs, and they were like pretty shocked at how much I gave
Right.
them, because that was, quite a lot. But
And I got to make sure you didn't go around the neighborhood. Hey, could you make a donation and fill my jugs full of
yeah, collect them. Uh, and then, they have to do, like, blood work checks every so often to see if the creatinine levels are in the right range, as well as, a bunch of other uh, metrics for, different levels. And the one time, I think this might have been in the after I donated, maybe 6 months after I donated, they uh, they did, just a regular blood work. And the day before blood work, I did a hard bike workout and run workout, like, back to back. And
Yeah.
then, so the next day, went for my uh, blood sample, uh, and it got sent off to their lab, and then they came back as my creatinine was like double what it should have been. Like, there's a lot of protein in my blood.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, well, yeah, that's a bad sign. What's, like, do I need to, like, go to the hospital? And, like I was getting a little bit worried. And then um my wife said, well, yesterday, didn't you do a hard bike and run workout? And I was like, oh yeah, I did. And she said, that probably, released more protein into your muscle, from your muscles into your bloodstream. I was like, oh yeah, that's probably.
Yeah.
So I had to wait like a week or two, just like, so my baseline sort of leveled out.
Well, I don't know if you found this, but I found that in working with doctors on a couple things I've had where they're not very knowledgeable about endurance athletes and how it affects blood tests and other markers in our body. I mean, as I told you, the foot surgery I had last week was actually postponed for 2 weeks because at the
Hmm.
last minute, the anesthesiologist freaked out over my low heart rate. And it wasn't until my surgeon told the guy, like, hey, he's good. This is just he's an endurance athlete. I had the same issue. You're not
Wow.
maybe old enough yet, but you're familiar with the PSA test that men have to get
Hmm.
tested for. Well, my number kept rising, 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 rising to the point that the doc said, my GP said, hey, you need to maybe go get a biopsy here because this is a potentially you may have prostate cancer. And um, as it turns out, and I found this out on my own, but even the sophisticated doctors didn't know. Apparently, endurance athletes, particularly ultra runners, tend to have high PSAs.
Hmm.
And the theory is maybe because we're jostling around a lot or whatever, but as a result, it gave them a reading that alarmed them. And in the end, I probably didn't need to go through all this other crap that they put me through. But
Oh
again,
wow.
it's one of those small niches in the world that doctors don't know a lot about, and that's probably the same thing that happened with you, I would guess.
Yeah, ultra runners, or endurance athletes are not representative of the population.
No, that's true.
W-
So,
Bill, what is your resting heart rate?
you ready for this? It's in the upper 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I've never every cardiologist, whatever, says they've
Oh
never
my
heard of
gosh.
anything like this. Yeah, I went through a whole regimen of testing a year ago this time. I did the echocardiogram, I did the stress test, I even wore a heart monitor that I ran a half marathon at 8,000 feet and wearing. And after all that, I see the head cardiologist, the electrical specialist, and he says, I wish you'd come to see me in the first place. I would have told you not to go through all that. I would have told you you were
Uh-huh.
fine. So yeah, but every time I went to one of those appointments, the tech who would kind of check you in would immediately run out of the room. I go, where are you going? They go, your heart rate's too low. I got to go get the doctor right now. And it's like, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
you would think after a while they would catch on, right?
yeah, I know, but I have had a couple incidents where I've blacked out, and so it
Oh,
does raise concern because I don't know if you ever heard of the vagal nerve response.
I've heard of it. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, so the vagus nerve, basically, let's say you eat spicy food and you break out in a sweat. Well, the vagal nerve reaction kicks in to slow your heart rate down. Problem is my heart's got nowhere to go. So I
Mm,
so I blacked out, and
wow.
I was in Las Vegas. One time I'd been eating a bunch of oysters on the half shell with the cocktail sauce, with the Tabasco and the horseradish, just wolfing them down. And next thing I remember was waking up in the ambulance, and then halfway to the hospital, I said to these guys, "Hey, you know what? I feel great right now. Can you guys let me out?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "No, no, no, we got to take you." And they get me in the hospital, and they said, "Hey, you've blacked out, so we wanted to get you on the treadmill, but we're a little afraid, so we're going to give you a drug to simulate you doing a workout." And
Okay.
then all of a sudden I hear, "Mildred, get over here. You're not going to believe this. Arlene, check this out." And I said, so when are you guys going to, give me this drug and start this test? And they go, "Mister, we already gave it to you. Your heart rate's supposed to be 140 right now. We can only get your heart rate up to 41." So
Oh my gosh.
yeah. But yeah,
Wow.
so it is pretty
That's
fun.
certainly an anomaly. Wow.
Yeah, no, but it's yeah. So after my surgeon talked to the anesthesiologist and told him, look, he's fine. I somehow survived another surgery here last week.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not in quite the same way, but after I donated my kidney, every 12 hours there's a new nurse that comes in and check on me. And uh, the start of the one of the shifts, the nurse came in and taken my vitals and saw my heart rate was, yeah, like in the 40s, and almost was going to, like, contact like the head nurse, and get a little bit panicky. And I was like, oh yeah, that's like normal for me. And then he went back and checked all the my previous numbers, and then decided that was in range.
Oh, that's good. Hey, I was curious about one thing though, Mike. When you decided to donate your kidney, was it a matter of like, hey, let's set up a date with the wherever you had the procedure done, or was it like, no, we're going to wait till we have this specific need where, because we've decided you're a match for certain people here, and like, hey, we know this person right now. Come on in and do it now. I mean, was it more them dictating the schedule or you?
Yeah, it was me telling them a time frame when, I think it was a 2-week time frame, which I could come in any time, and then they would let me know about a week before when it would be. And my initial surgery was actually scheduled for my birthday, August 2nd in 2021. And a few days before I was supposed to go to the hospital, the person, I didn't get much details on it, but they said the person wasn't eligible anymore for
Mm.
that transplant. So then it was like, sort of back to the drawing board, just wait longer. And so I was starting a new job in September, and so I wanted enough time to be able to recover before that's, as a teacher, before the school year started. And uh, not long after the initial phone call that canceled the first date, they called and said it was going to be about a week later. So August 10th on 2021 is when the surgery happened. And yeah, I woke up in more pain than I was expecting. Uh, I have somewhat of a high pain tolerance, I think, and I'm sure there's a few women who'll be rolling their eyes right now, thinking you never went through childbirth.
Yeah, right, right.
Uh,
But we
but
endurance
anyway,
athletes do have it. I guess women who've run ultra marathons and been through childbirth, that's probably like the top of the heap right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, I was in more pain than I was expecting, and I don't know if it was the surgeon or who told me that I had, so the incision actually went through um my stomach, like through my, I'm not gonna pull up my shirt, but that's like right around the belly button area.
Okay.
And so it used to be like more on the side here. That's where my dad's scar is.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
well,
why
this
the
is
move now? Do you know?
uh so they used to do it through two sites. I guess they would do like they would cut one hole for the cameras and the other hole to take the kidney out, but now they do, it's a single site, so they just cut you open right in the middle and they stretch it out, and they're able to kind of do everything with the cameras and just reaching out and
Yeah.
pulling it out. So they said, I guess they had to cut through, kind of my abdomen, and my muscles are, I guess, thicker, the abdomen muscles, than other people maybe. So it was, just more tissue or whatever that they had
Right.
to cut through. So that's why it was more painful than maybe I was expecting. And
Well, anytime you cut through abdominal muscle, I mean, it doesn't have to be a kidney transplant, but for whatever, I know that's a tough recovery from that. So, but damn all that core you did that made those abdominal muscles so strong, right?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of ironic because the year before when I had the other surgery, it was because my abdominal muscles were not strong enough.
Yeah.
I had that in 2019, I had done two marathons. And so maybe I just wasn't resting enough, but I think I was also running more than I was doing like core exercises and things like that.
Hmm.
And um, so things just got a little out of balance, I think. And I tore my rectus abdominis, which is my, the lower six pack ab muscle, and then also my left adductor. So
Ugh,
they needed
sounds
to, yeah,
painful.
yeah. So it was like kind of two abdominal surgeries in a way, back to
Yeah.
back years. But
Yikes.
yeah, within 2 weeks after the surgery, the kidney surgery, I was feeling, a lot better. And then, I think 4 weeks after the surgery, I was back to running and,
Wow.
kind of normal activities.
Is that a pretty quick recovery? It sounds like it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think they say 6 weeks
Yeah.
you should wait to do everything, but within 4 weeks I was fine. And
So
see,
you
that
said,
was
yeah,
2021. So then after that, I decided, all right, it's time to sign up for for the next event,
right.
test this body out and see how it responds. So I in 2022, in the summer, I did a half Ironman in Mont Tremblant, which is in Canada,
Yeah.
just north of Montreal. And yeah, so I trained for about 4 or 5 months for that race, and you know did well there. And then after that, I decided, okay, like a bucket list item that I didn't know when I was gonna try to do this, or what the right timing would be, but I want to do a full Ironman. And a
Right.
buddy of mine had done Lake Placid back in 2017, and it's just like an amazing atmosphere there, very beautiful area up in the Adirondacks. And so yeah, I thought I wanted to do that race. So that was uh, July 23rd, 2023. So about 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
uh, I did that race, and yeah, I finished. So that was you know a big goal
Right.
of mine, just to finish. I had a time goal in mind. I thought I would finish, but
Yeah.
I had a time goal in mind, and I guess I didn't fully take into account the hills that I would be
Right.
riding and running on. Fortunately, the swim was pretty flat.
Yeah,
but
yeah, the swim's usually
the
flat, and I was gonna say I think it was a hot day, but again, the swim wasn't affected too much by that either.
uh, so I knew it was going to be hilly, and my buddy who did the race a few years prior said, just take it easy, like don't ride too hard in the beginning of the race. So that was the mindset I had, but I guess the adrenaline took over a little bit, and you
Sure.
know went out probably a little too hard on the bike, and within 30 miles, I already started feeling my hamstrings start to tighten up a little bit, as if you're just about to start cramping,
Right.
and so I had to back off, just more fluids, slow down a little bit, and so I didn't cramp, but like for the last 80 miles of the bike, I just felt like that cramp was just coming in any second. So it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
Right.
I was happy, but it's also like torture at the same time. Like, oh, when is this gonna come? Uh, but
That's a
and
horrible
then
feeling, isn't it? I've been
yeah,
there too many times. Yeah.
and so
So you said you were having to drink a lot, obviously. Was that related at all to having one kidney, or you think that's not relevant?
yeah, I mean, I think people with two kidneys probably need to drink a lot uh, in an Ironman.
Yeah.
But in general, I need to stay well hydrated. I did ask my uh, the surgeon who performed my the kidney surgery, and I guess it's called a nephrectomy. He, I said, are there any precautions I should take going into the race, in training for the race? And his only response was, hydration is key. So
All right.
I tried to live by that, and to stay hydrated, not just with water, but electrolytes as well. Because I have a friend who just did the Leadville 50 mountain bike, and he was hydrating the whole week with just water. And within a few miles of the start of the race, he cramped up because his electrolytes were not in balance.
I was just
Uh,
going to guess that. Yeah.
yeah, so that was good to know going into my race, just to kind of keep it balanced with the water. And I had um, a nutrition. The nutrition I was using was is called Infinite. I had never heard of it before, but it was recommended to me by an Ironman coach. She was like talking to me about nutrition, and she said this is good for like calories and electrolytes, and so just to kind of have that on the bike.
Yeah.
And then the Lake Placid race is two loops, so two 56-mile loops,
Yeah.
and after the first loop, you have a bag that you can kind of restock and replenish nutrition and bottles and food and whatever. I took a couple Motrin as well, which is not the best for kidneys, because I think your kidneys processes
I
like
was going to say that.
ibuprofen, but
Right.
I had Tylenol stashed later on for the run, so I needed to kind of spread it out. But anyway, uh, so
Yeah.
I had to swap out the bottles after, at the halfway point for the
Yeah.
bike, and so that that was just being cognizant and aware of my um, hydration was an important part of not cramping up, and doing my best that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Did the nephrologist also say, besides hydration, that maybe electrolytes and other fueling is going to be more critical for you?
I think that was probably implied in
Yeah.
his
Okay.
3-word response.
Well, cool. Well, I saw that your overall time was 13:18, and by the way, it was not easy to research you with as common a name as you have. Um,
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, I'm a journalist at heart. I usually do a very deep dive before I get into these interviews, and yeah, but these were the only two results I could find on Athlinks, was the Leadville heavy half, and then this Iron Man here in Lake Placid. But the thing said, and I was trying to figure out if this could possibly be true. Your swim took an hour and 18, but then it said you were first in both the bike and the marathon portion. I thought, well, I don't know. His marathon portion was 4:31. That doesn't sound like a first place time there for
No,
your age group.
I don't
I don't
know
know. Yeah.
what sources you had, but
Well, it's just
I think
Athlinks.
my
Yeah,
oh
that's what it said. And I thought that doesn't
uh
look right.
yeah, I think my marathon was like 400th overall, and there's like like 1,700 finishers.
Yeah.
So like top 25%, I guess. And yeah, my run is my strong suit. My biking is actually my weak point, which I knew last year in the half Ironman, and I was trying to put in um, more effort on the bike with, the long bike rides and the brick workouts, but uh, I guess my bike will always be my weak point.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say for most of us who are runners at heart, it's usually the swim that's the weak part. But
Yeah, that is funny. I have put a lot of work into my swim too, so I think guess that's where um something's got to give, right?
yeah, right. No, well, hey, that's really impressive, though. I mean, you spent more than 7 hours on the bike for one thing, so that was a long time to be out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was coming into the first lap. I mean, I was happy to just finish the first lap when once I started getting those like twinges in my hamstrings. I thought, oh man, if I start cramping up, I might not even get through lap one. Just like
Yeah,
struggling. Um, and so I said, just keep it easy on the uphills and just stay steady and try to uh, just manage my pace and my nutrition. So like every 20 minutes, I was checking my watch to take some salt tablets, um, take some take some water in,
right,
and so like just uh, make sure that everything was continuing to just maintain my plan, my nutrition plan throughout the race. Um, but going into the race, I had this idea of nutrition, and all my training was lining up. I put in probably 6 months at least of training uh,
yeah,
going into Lake Placid, and I'm mostly competitive with myself. Obviously, I want to try to finish like as high on the rankings as possible, but I just want to do the best I can. And just over 2 weeks before the race, I was out for a training ride with a friend, and it was a flat road we were on, right by a farm in Pennsylvania, and um, sunny day. It wasn't wet or anything, and uh, he was leading, I was behind him, and I guess maybe he was kind of blocking my sight a little bit, but there was a dirt patch that I went over, and maybe I was like moving my bike a little bit, and my front tire hit the dirt patch and just slid out, and
ooh,
I landed pretty hard on my left side. So like my left ankle hit, my left hip, my I think I put my arm out, so my lat hit the ground, and then my arm here.
yeah, you
You
still
can
got some bruising there.
Yeah, so I'd get stitches here. This is pretty much a scar at this point.
Yeah, oh,
Uh, and then my right hand, I don't know if it hit the ground or hit the handlebars, but I probably just put my arms out as a reaction, and my finger was just bent
yeah,
like unnaturally, and I was like, oh man, it's not what I need 2 weeks before the race. So it
no, not at
was
all. Did you dislocate
I
the thumb
so I
or
knew it was dislocated. So I didn't know if it was broken or dislocated, but it hurt a lot. And so I was worried about my thumb. My friend was worried about my arm because it was just like kind of gushing blood. So he was taking my water bottles and
right?
trying to clean out any dirt or gravel. And so we still had 8 miles left in the bike ride. And we had driven our cars and met at a parking lot of an ice cream place. And so, you know, there's some hills that we had to ride up. So like shifting, was, quite difficult. Just like my whole hand was, not my whole hand, but this area was kind of swollen
Right.
and tender. So, I was like put my whole body into shifting and braking. And so we make it back to the parking lot, and, he helps me rack my bike on the back of my car. And he's like, do you need anything? Do you want me to drive you to the emergency room or urgent care? And uh, urgent care wouldn't even take me because they were like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. Uh, but
Oh,
before I went,
you even went. I mean, you're not like, I'm an endurance athlete. I'll just go home and put some ice on it.
I mean, if it wasn't for the thumb, that's what I was worried about.
Right.
So we parked at the ice cream place. So I said, well, before I drive myself to the
Oh, you
emergency room,
gotta
I've
get the ice cream.
got to get some ice cream. So I'm
Right.
standing in the ice cream shop, and my arm is the blood has kind of dried up at this point, but it's still pretty open. And there's a dad sitting with his two daughters, like right next to like the line where I'm looking at the menu, figuring out what I want to order. And I could just like feel their eyes on me, like, oh my God, what happened to him? And so I turned over. I saw them looking at me, and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, but you know, I'll get it checked out and see what it is." And he's like, "Hope everything's okay." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
just
me too."
I'll try
So
not to drip on your kids, drip blood on your kids' ice cream cone. But other than that, I'm
yeah,
great.
exactly. Yeah. So after my mint chocolate chip ice cream, I drove my stick shift car, which
Oh,
right-handed.
perfect. Right.
Yeah. So that was fun, and uh, so yeah, so I was there at ER for 5 hours. They, did X-rays on everything that was seemed like it might be injured, and so had like a ankle sprain, dislocated thumb, so that when they were relocating it, they actually fractured it, which is called an avulsion fracture.
Yeah.
So a piece of the bone like went with the ligament as they were like pulling on it,
Right.
which apparently is normal, but it's
Yeah,
like,
it is.
oh man,
Yeah.
oh man. So a few days after I left the hospital, I went to the orthopedic doctor to have them look at my thumb, and so they made this cool splint. It's made of plastic, and they were able to like mold it to my thumb, and they said, you can do everything. There's no restrictions. Like you were saying with your foot. Once you get your stitches out, no restrictions. But so I
Hopefully.
said,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like holding my breath, asking like, can I do my race,
Right.
my
Of course.
Ironman?
First
And
priority here.
so, yeah, exactly. And so he said, yes, you can, as long as you have your splint on, you can do anything you want. Um, so
Nice.
that was good. And this was still pretty open at the time. I did a test swim in the pool with it, and it was kind of getting a little bit like gooey. I was like, oh, it's not, I mean, but they said the worst that is going to happen with this once the stitches come out is this is going to be a bad scar, which
Yeah.
is like, okay, I can live with that.
Sure.
you know Got plenty of those already.
Yeah. But yeah, what
And
great timing though to the whole thing though, right?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, given the fall that I had, the crash, and just the difficulty of the course, I should have just thrown out any like time goals I had and just like done what I could to enjoy the race. But that's not really my nature.
No, it's
So
not your
yeah.
wiring, right?
So yeah, I mean, that was like my benchmark, and it's just the 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 mountains in the area. There's like Whiteface Mountain there, and there's like like Placid is the site of like the 1932 and 1980 Olympics. So there's like a lot of
Oh
cool
yeah.
like Olympic things to look at as you're on the race course, and streams and lakes, and so yeah, just like the beauty of the environment, made the suffering a lot better.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna not do a race in a place like that because of little flesh wounds, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me, 2019, I ran the Leadville 100, and I had several issues with my feet that year, but none, or what was it, but not the least of them was 3 weeks before the race. Kind of similar to you, though. In this case, I was snorkeling in the Azores, which are a volcanic island chain in the North Atlantic, Portuguese possession. Beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful place. But I slipped, and my heel hit on one of those volcanic rocks, and I put about a dime-sized hole in the bottom of my left foot. And so after I came home, I saw a wound specialist, and she kind of did a Hail Mary wound healing thing and did the best we could. And then, the day before the race, she said, well, we've done all we can. We're just going to cover it now in super glue. And there you go. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I went up and
So it held.
it held. I got cut off. I just went up with the attitude, I'm just going to have the best time I possibly can. I'm going to enjoy this, going to push myself as hard as I can, get as far as I can. And I did. I succeeded in that. Like I say, I didn't get to the finish line, but yeah, I mean, I literally didn't even have a good place for my foot to land that whole race because, I already had other issues and then my heel had a hole in it. So, oh well.
Sure.
Yeah, but great timing again. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, right for a big event like that.
yeah. So those who are just listening, Mike's got a nice black bandage on his thumb here still, what, 4 weeks later, right? Yeah,
At this point, yeah, just over 4 weeks.
right. All
So
right.
this will be, I go back to the ortho this Friday and they will say if it needs to come off. I think it's too soon. I've done like a couple test bends with it, or like maybe not even on purpose. Like if it's off, like if I'm in the shower or something, and then get out of the shower and like I bang it on something, I'm like, ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not healed yet.
Yeah.
So
So,
probably a few more weeks, but
yeah, I mean, I guess they'll have you do therapy on that. Maybe probably the modern version of therapy for that now is tell you to play on a video game controller or
yeah, right.
something, get it back in shape. So,
Dust off the old Xbox.
yeah, I guess. Did you have any like kidney related issues though during the race? I mean, anything that was adverse or
No, nothing.
great?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, so the race, it's 13 hours, and I mean, ever since the donation, 2 years ago, I haven't had any issues with, uh, yeah, the kidneys at all. Um, there was a little bit of concern last year. I donated blood in early in the year last year, and I got a letter from the company I donated to saying, "Oh, thank you for your recent donation. However, you're not going to be allowed to donate with us for 2 years because we found this tick-borne illness in your blood, not Lyme's disease, but it's something else called babesiosis, and um, and so they said like you can go get it checked out at your local like infectious disease doctor, or I didn't have any symptoms. I mean, apparently their symptoms can be pretty severe. But so I went to the infectious disease doctor, and there was some trace of it in my blood at that time. So he said, we can put you on antibiotics, but since since you don't have any symptoms, you can just wait and see. Test you again in a couple of weeks, see if it goes down, like the level of
yeah,
whatever was in my. Uh, so that yeah, I just waited 2 weeks and got more blood work, and it was either going down or completely gone at that point. So I didn't need any treatment, but I reported this to my kidney coordinator and said like, hey, I don't know if this is relevant. I don't know like how long I've had this in my system, uh, but just letting you know that this was found, and I don't know if you need to contact the recipient at all to make sure that they're okay. And they said, well, I don't know if they would have tested for this, like when I did my whole like
yeah. That's what I
evaluation
was
and
wondering if they would
donation.
have detected it before, right?
So it's entirely possible that this would have came about, in the
Right.
months after my donation. I was out for a run or a hike or something, and I got this, but didn't realize it. But they then had to report it to the CDC, and then the CDC went back to them and said, like they had like a whole like checklist of questions. And then
Yeah.
they got back to me asking me if I like what treatment I had, if I was hospitalized. I was like,
No, didn't
there's
know I had it.
nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Weird.
um, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I guess when you are a organ recipient, I guess you get whatever that donor passes along to you. Yeah,
Yeah, so I guess that's they do a very in-depth screening process, as I
right,
mentioned before, with you know family history, and they ask questions about like if I drink or smoke, and you know if I do drink, how many drinks I have in a day or a week, and you know if I ever had blackouts, and like
right.
things like that. And Um, yeah, I tried to be as truthful as possible.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say I lie anytime they ask about blackouts, but
yeah,
yeah. Oh
like
man.
I don't remember.
Yeah. So just
Um,
jumping back, I mean, when you did that half Ironman outside of Montreal, you had no issues with kidneys or anything like that then, right?
yeah, you're right. So that was less than a year after my donation,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's no issues at all. Um, yeah, and then, it's same thing. Same thing as and similar to Lake Placid. I, trained as hard as I could for that race. I pushed myself as hard as I could, and did okay. Came a little short of my time goal, but it was funny in the bike. The bike course is like a big out and back, and going out, I felt like I was barely pedaling, and I was going like 24 miles an hour. And I was like, man, this feels like easy. I must be feeling like really good. But I was getting passed by like dozens of people. I'm like, man, these are really good bikers. And then we turn around at the turnaround point and we go back. I'm doing like 10 miles an hour because now I'm in a headwind.
Yeah.
Before I had a tailwind, that was, felt easy. And now I'm coming back and it's the headwind. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should have rode the headwind. I mean, the tailwind a little harder. So that,
Yeah.
but um, yeah. So needless to say, my bike leg was a little slow that day, but
Yeah.
had a pretty decent run leg, so kind of evened out.
All right. Very cool. Let's jump forward, not quite as far as Lake Placid, but to Leadville. I don't even recall how we met each other. I guess we just started talking before the race. Um,
Yeah, sure. We were just hanging out before the race, and you seemed like a friendly guy, so I think we just struck up a conversation. You were wearing a volunteer shirt, I believe.
No, yeah, that was kind of the uniform du jour, but yeah, I tend to be the person who yaps with anybody around, and yeah, I was supposed to run the race and couldn't because of my foot, and then I don't know, somehow we started talking about your whole kidney story and everything, and yeah, you seemed like a good guy and everything, and then I was working at the finish line, and then like you came across, and I'm like, holy crap, you did really well. I mean, you were actually 11th overall, which
Yeah,
I mean, not only your whole kidney thing, but coming from Flatland up to Leadville, that's pretty damn impressive. And but describe the race. I
thank
mean,
you.
it was a, crappy day, as you well know, better than I do even.
The year before, I think the conditions were hot and the visibility was really good. So I was really looking forward. I've done one race in Leadville before, the 50 miler, and I remember that day the views were incredible, just the mountains around me. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. So I was really looking forward to that again. And you know, just before the race, I will early on in the day, like maybe uh 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, the down in the town of Leadville is actually pretty clear. The like the visit, you could see the mountains, surrounding mountains. It was pretty, and
Yeah.
but pretty soon the clouds rolled in. It started raining, and then we got notified that the course got rerouted because of snow at the higher elevations. I think the race was supposed to go up to 13,000 feet at Mosquito Pass,
Right.
and they needed to like reroute it so that it went, to a lower elevation where there was less snow.
Well, you didn't know
And so,
that before that morning?
I mean, maybe I found out like the day before, but it
Yeah, okay. I
was,
was gonna say because they
I don't,
announced it a day or two before. Yeah, I mean, basically, we had so much snow out here this winter, and there have been a lot of years where they've had crews up there shoveling Mosquito Pass. It blows my mind how that job must go because not only is that like sometimes there's like taller than a human walls of snow up there, but they're working at high elevation where I'm sure every shovelful you're like, okay, so take another break, okay, and
yeah,
I'm sure they
right,
bring machinery up and whatnot, but yeah, they just couldn't clear the snow this year, regardless of the fact the weather went to hell that day.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So for people who don't know, Leadville, the town of Leadville is at 10,000 feet elevation, and so within a couple miles, I think we got above 11,000 feet. and I think that's when the snow started.
Right.
Um, I don't think it was hailing at all during the race, maybe later, but uh, so it was, at first it was kind of cool. It was like, oh, this is, it's snow flurries, and um, but then as the race was going on, the ground was kind of like mucky, muddy in certain parts, and um, I guess maybe from the last time I did any Leadville race, I forgot how rocky it can be.
Oh yeah.
Like as we were going up towards the turnaround, it's like a fairly steep climb, and it's like very rocky and narrow. So there's people going up on one side, coming down on the other, and you gotta navigate, the rocks that you're going over. So that was,
Oh yeah.
pretty tricky. And so I'm going up. It wasn't Mosquito Pass, but whatever the turnaround point was. And I'm looking around, hoping get some amazing views, and of course, with the weather, there was no
Right.
views at all. So that was kind of disappointing. Um, but I remember there was a few females uh, that I was like trying to keep pace with. So they were doing an awesome job running the uphills, and I would walk the uphills. So they would pass me, and then kind of level out, and I would sort of catch up to them, maybe pass them a little bit, and the next uphill they would go, and I would stay back, and so we kind of got a little bit of cat and mouse there.
Yeah,
And
you anecdotally observed what I've always observed, and I don't know, I've never seen any scientific studies done on this, but women for some reason can just maintain that steady metronome-like pace
yeah,
at high altitudes, and men we're like, as you're saying, you're yo-yoing back and forth, and I don't know if it's because we've got more ego involved here, and I just
yeah,
I don't have that low gear. But I do when I'm at a high elevation race. I do try to get behind a woman, not because I'm some kind of lech, but it's because it's because they can maintain that steady
they
pace.
pace.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, I crossed the finish line, pretty decent place. I think I got 11th, and yeah, I was just happy to be done. My legs were kind of screaming at that point.
yeah.
Downhills are almost as hard as uphills, and so I'm, just standing near the finish line. And I'm seeing all these people cross the finish line with bloody knees and shins, and
Oh yeah,
I guess people falling because of the rockiness and stuff like that. So I was just happy to not have fallen or done any damage at that point. The
yeah.
other damage was
Yeah,
going to come
you're waiting for the
later.
bike ride for that, right? Yeah, no, I
Exactly.
mean, I knew quite a few people who were running that day, and the pictures they took of it was just a muck fest. I mean, it was so muddy, and yeah, I saw a lot of. Hey there's your daughter.
Hi, sweetie.
You want to speak for the podcast here? Tell everybody what your
Just
name is.
what's your name?
We got the shy one here. All right.
Do you have a name? This is
Uh,
Gabby.
Hi, Gabby. Oh well, shy one there.
um,
Yeah, but it was such a mess up there. I just and yeah, I saw a lot of blood coming across the finish line there. It was impressive. Everybody who finished that race. I mean, I heard stories about it. At some point it got really windy up there, and it was just snowing sideways, and it was miserable at the finish line. So I can't even imagine how ugly it was up top there.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but the crowd support and the aid stations and the volunteers were really awesome that day. So definitely made a big difference. In
Yeah,
terms of the bike crash, my family was sort of, I mean, they were concerned about me, of course. Uh, I called my mom because Gabby was at camp that day, and uh, she was like, "Hey, sweetie, is everything okay?" And I was like, "Well, no, not really."
yeah,
And so she was a little bit worried about me, but uh, that kind of brought back memories for her from when I was a kid. I had a couple more serious bicycle accidents, and so I think some of my family members might have been like, "Oh, not again,"
yeah. Always causing
but
trouble. All right.
you know those were a little bit more serious. I had a couple comas between the ages of 11 and 14. So I was in the hospital for like a couple weeks for each of those incidents, and uh,
That
so it's a
explains
little
why
bit of
the races like this. Okay.
yeah, a little bit, a few screws loose, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. All right. So what's next for you, Mike?
Um, so we got the baby coming next month, so that's
Yeah. Right.
the big thing next. And then the next race, I'm hoping, I don't know if it's going to be next year or the year after, but the Leadville 100.
All right.
That's the next bucket list item.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, maybe I'll see you out there next year. I've deferred my entry from this year to 2024, and I was at cross country practice the next day after my surgery. I told the kids, I said,
Wow.
surgery is not an excuse to miss practice. And I also told them, and I was out there, I did all the exercises, post-run exercises with the kids, the core work and all the other leg stuff and everything we do. And I told them, I said, this is day one for me of training for Leadville Trail 100 2024. So
Awesome. Well, you're setting a good example for him.
hopefully, or they just think, oh my God, this coach we got is nuts.
He's a crazy one.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you out there in 24 or 25, whichever.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great.
yeah, Gabby, you excited to be getting a little brother or sister there? She's rather interested in the AirPods case instead.
Are you excited for Snowball?
Yeah,
Yeah. She named the baby Snowball.
excellent. I like it. Snowball Kennedy just rolls right off the tongue. Do
Yep.
you know if it's a boy or a girl yet?
Girl.
Okay. All right. You're getting a little sister, Gabby, a little snowball of a sister. That's
Yep.
cool. Yeah. Well, excellent. What would you tell people though who are considering giving a kidney transplant or any other kind of organ donation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone has to assess their own situation. It's definitely like a worthwhile experience and endeavor to undertake. It is life changing for not only for the recipient, but for me as well. Knowing that I helped somebody else in literally a life changing way is very fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, people might think that their life might be affected by it in a negative way, but it's the exact opposite. Your life will be affected, but
Right.
for the better.
Yeah. No, that's totally awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, she's got the case. Yeah, no, that's really awesome. And you're right. It is nothing but a positive impact out there in the world. So if people are interested in donating, do you know where they can get to resources online or anything like that?
Yeah, the organization that I donated to or through um, was the National Kidney Registry.
Okay.
And I mean, the specific hospital where I donated was Wheel Cornell Medical Center in New York.
Okay.
Uh, the name is actually much longer. It's like Wheel
Yeah. Whoever donated
New
money to
York
the
New
hospital, right?
York Presbyterian, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
medical center. But yeah, I had a very positive experience there. The whole team was very professional, and the nurses I had afterwards in the recovery process made my time very comfortable there, and um, got me back on my feet really quickly. And
Yeah. The
so
fact you're running again in 4 weeks, that's just incredible.
yeah, and there, no physical therapy was needed afterwards. Just kind of take it easy, not lift heavy things. Like, so I couldn't lift Gabby for 4 weeks after the surgery. So she was like always complaining about that, but
Yeah. It's just
she
like,
understood, I think.
come on, Dad, you're a wuss. Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's great. So if people want to follow you through Snowball and the other races you do there, obviously, if they search for Mike Kennedy, they may have some trouble there. So where can they actually find you out there?
So on Instagram, my name is XC Mike K.
Okay.
And then yeah, on Facebook I'm Mike Kennedy, so very generic.
All right. How are they going to separate you from the other Mike Kennedys? Just look for the one in
Uh,
PA, I guess.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
it's funny when I lived in Washington, I was on North 18th Street, like 4001 North 18th Street. Michael Kennedy, that was me. And then 4001 North 12th Street was a different Michael Kennedy. So we would always get each other's like mail and packages. It was
Oh yeah.
kind of
You know, it's
funny.
funny when I moved to Denver back in 1981, there was another Bill Stahl who, and I lived on East Evans Avenue, or East Harvard Avenue. I'm sorry. There was actually a Bill Stahl who lived on West Harvard Avenue,
Oh
and
wow.
I would get phone calls like at all hours. I knew this guy's whole life. I knew that he went to the University of Illinois. I knew his wife's name, where she worked, just because of all the phone calls I used to get.
Uh-huh.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, what are the odds on that one?
Yeah, right.
But yeah. Okay. Well, I will put your contact stuff and the National Kidney Registry in the show notes.
Awesome.
And really appreciate your time. I know we had a little fun trying to get the timing on this arranged here, but I
Yeah,
really
I'm glad we finally figured it out. And thanks for having
absolutely,
me on today, Bill. I enjoyed sharing this conversation.
absolutely, and enjoy keeping in touch with you here in the future. And like I say, next time you come out to Leadville or run in Colorado, let me know. You got a great Colorado shirt on already, though.
Yeah, this
That's
is one
pretty
of
cool.
the my first shirts from there, so
Yeah.
it's vintage. Oh, very nice.
Mommy wants you to get off the phone, huh?
Yeah,
All right. Well, hey, no, thank you so much for your time, Mike. This has been great, and I hope it helps some other people out there as well.
yeah, I hope so too. All right, thank
Yeah.
you, Bill.
Hey,
Take care.
best of luck with Snowball and everything else.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
And let me just kill.